Hi, I'm Tracy Lawrence, and I am the founder of Grand Family Planning. I'm here today to talk to you about parents and how difficult they can be as they age and why it's important to pay attention to some things and how adult children may, without being aware of it, get sucked into the needy parent vortex. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that and see if this may be helpful to you. Now, as we age, and this is not just, okay, let's start with a common misperception. We think of our parents as being these old people, and to us they've always been old because they've always been relatively old compared to us. However, on a long enough timeline, the gap starts to narrow. And there comes a point in time when, as our parents age, we're aging, and we may catch up and surpass them as far as ability to be able to get things done in life. Parents who have been independent and able for most of their adult lives start to slow down as they age. And when I say age, I'm talking usually you get to, you're in your 60s and you think, okay, I'm good. Things are all right. I'm holding on. And I often hear adult children say things like, "Oh, my parents are great. They're still playing tennis. They still travel. They're so independent and they're on top of things." And well, here's the problem. Well, you're not paying attention and you're assuming that they're still independent and they're okay. Sometimes they're not. And if you don't live near them, then the charade can carry on for much longer. I found this out myself with my father. My parents had their place in southern Florida, and my brother's family and my husband and I all lived in northern New Jersey. So my relationship with them was mostly on the phone, and we would once or twice a year get together and enjoy each other's company and then go back to living the way we were living. And I thought that everything was great with my dad until I got to see him in the spring of 2003 and realized that he'd been hiding a lot of things from us because he didn't want us to worry, and that's very typical. So a lot of times our parents' encroaching decline isn't obvious until we see them. And it's right in our faces and we can't deny it anymore because no one wants to believe that people they love are getting sick and losing ground and will eventually die. That's a very tough thing for us to grasp, and we as a society have a really tough time dealing with the idea of death anyway. So, a lot of my clients come to me when their parents are in crisis. What does that mean? Well, they haven't been paying attention, or maybe they have been paying attention, but their loved one winds up in the hospital, and then the trajectory is usually hospital, rehab, and then what's next. And that's usually when I meet people who are dealing with this situation. I'd rather catch them earlier, but that's usually when people pull the trigger because they can't figure this out on their own. So what my team and I do is we evaluate where the parent is at and what can be done in the circumstance. Now, very often, the aging parent does not have a regular doctor who charts them. Why is that a problem? Because our aging parents tend to be on Medicare. And if you're on Medicare, you're entitled to certain benefits, including up to, depending on your condition, 100 days of skilled nursing care. That means being in a rehab with people attending to you and delivering physical therapy and helping you to get better from whatever illness has afflicted you that landed you in the hospital in the first place. So if you're in the hospital for 3 nights on Medicare and your doctor prescribes it and charts your case properly, then you can qualify for 90 to 100 days of skilled nursing. This gives the family some time to figure out what's next. Now, if the parent can be reconditioned and rehabilitated to the point where they can return to their home, hooray! That doesn't always happen. So it's good to have a qualified, knowledgeable person on your team to help you figure out what that next step is going to be. So that's one set of circumstances. Now, for people who have that golden opportunity where the parent has been sick and they recover, I hear from clients quite often that, oh, my dad is extremely stubborn. This happens with the male parents a lot. They're extremely stubborn and they don't want to do anything. But here's the thing. When a stubborn parent is in rehab and they're frightened, that's the time to get them to comply with planning so that when the next crisis arises, the family will be ready for it and it won't be as painful and it won't wind up costing everything that parent has worked their entire life to acquire, and often additionally the resources of their children. And this is what we try to avoid. We try to protect the family from the predatory practices of the system. All right? So it's extremely important to get involved. Now, I will tell you, I worked with a family where we had one of those stubborn male parents. Sadly, the children were also stubborn. And they wanted to do everything themselves. They wanted Grand Family Planning to come in, wave a magic wand, and just give them what they wanted. Now, the father was hospitalized. He had a procedure. He was released to rehab. His doctors prescribed 5 weeks of therapy and reconditioning. However, because of the improper charting of his case, he was only given like a week, after which the family would have had to pay out of pocket. And what this family wanted us to do was to get an appeal with Medicare and get them to pay for as much care as he needed. That wasn't going to happen. And I told the client that that wasn't going to happen. But they did not listen. And I also told them that they had a golden opportunity here to start preparing for the next crisis. And what they did instead was they did the Medicare appeal themselves and they lost. I suggested that they start preparing for Medicaid. They declined to do that because it would have cost them some money. And what they didn't realize was that it could be part of their father's spend down. We recommended that they see an estate attorney to get all of their father's documentation done properly. They refused to do that as well. So in a case where a client comes in with expectations that are unreasonable, there's not a whole lot that anybody can do for them. Now let me tell you another story that's a lot more enjoyable for me to relate because it was a big success. Client came to me. She had been caregiving her aging parents for 4.5 years. Her father was hospitalized. He was very ill and very frail. And he was moved to rehab. And he was coming to the end of his Medicare-covered skilled nursing phase. The rehab facility wanted to move the father to their nursing home. And they had arranged to have a meeting with the daughter to discuss the transfer and what would be involved. And it was at this point that the daughter reached out to me. Now, I spoke to her and I recommended strongly that she not sign any papers, not make any decisions immediately. Let them know that she was working with an advisor and that she would get back to them in a day or two. And then we could strategize. Well, sadly, the client was bullied into signing the documentation and transferring her father, and he was moved into this nursing home where he was being delivered his breakfast at 6:30 in the morning and not being fed. He was not being bathed. He was not being taken to the bathroom. He was losing weight. All of this was documented. In addition, the client forwarded me the next email she got from their administration, and it was a demand for $27,000. Yes, folks, nursing homes in New Jersey can cost right now they're running between $10,000 and $14,000 a month. Let that settle. So my client did pay, and the father was kept there for a while, and the daughter was justifiably alarmed, and we assisted her in moving her father to a better facility where he got bathed daily, fed daily, 3 times daily, had his medications delivered, was being taken to the bathroom instead of being left to his own devices. And he promptly gained weight. My client was able to sleep when she wanted to at night, return to her activities of gardening instead of worrying. And we got our Medicaid specialist on the case, and we successfully applied for community Medicaid for her mother, who was living in her home with her, and facility Medicaid for the father. So this is an example of a successful case. This is where we can really help, because people don't realize how difficult it is to navigate all of these various mechanisms that we need in order to have our loved ones receive the care that they want and deserve, without taking every single last dime that they have worked to acquire, and without seriously negatively impacting the adult children as well. And this is something that people really have to understand. I very often run into people who have a snide attitude about Medicaid planning, and I get the kinds of remarks that lead me to believe that they feel that planning for Medicaid is cheating the system. Let me tell you that anyone who's ever worked a job and has looked at their FICA, okay, that deduction that comes out of every paycheck, that money is going to pay for your Medicare and your Medicaid. That's what constitutes that huge deduction that comes out of your paycheck when you're working, okay? So this is not a scam. This is not taking money that is only earmarked as entitlements for poor people. Because, folks, in this country, getting sick is an extremely expensive proposition. It can be catastrophic. And if you don't know how to use your benefits properly, and if you don't have someone to advocate for you when you are too old, frail, confused, and incapacitated to represent yourself, it's extremely important to have someone who can step up for you. So here at Grand Family Planning, What we help people to do is, number one, figure out who is your advocate going to be. That's one of the most important questions anyone can ask, and sometimes the answer is not immediately evident. So we try to help you figure out who that person is going to be. Then we want to provide them with all of the authority that they need to act on your behalf. We want to make sure that your legal documentation is in order. We want to make sure that you have defined what your desires are for the end of your life. We want to make sure that there are resources set aside so that your care can be paid for. And once they're in that position of having to advocate for you, we help your advocate to deal with the bureaucracy. And that's something that's extremely important. It doesn't matter how capable you are. There's going to come a point in time where you're going to run into a roadblock. A lot of people don't realize that having long-term care insurance, for instance, is not a guarantee that that the benefits will be paid, because the insurance companies are very good at making it difficult to successfully file a claim. I know this firsthand. I went through it with my mother. There was a period of time, went on for months. I think it was something like 7 months, where I did not get a single check, even though I had activated her claim, I had filed all the paperwork, I kept following up. But because there was a gap in the chain of my mother's residency, because she'd had a major incident where she had become profoundly psychotic, she was hospitalized, she was rehabbed, she was in a psych hospital for a while, on and off. She bounced around from place to place, and because of that, her long-term care insurance provider was not paying her bills because they wanted to see all the places that she was at, even though they were not being asked to pay for them. So what I'm trying to tell you, folks, is that if you are in the position of having aging parents who are going to need your help, then I strongly suggest that you reach out and just ask for our free ebook. It will give you a conversation starter, something to think about, topics that you really need to discuss. There are 8 of them, and they will help you to have the conversation. Now, spoiler alert, once you start to have the conversation, it's highly likely that your parents will say, "No, I got this, we're fine, everything's good, don't worry." Well, that's the time when you back off, you circle back around, and you try to have the conversation again from a different angle. Now, I can help you with those angles, and I can tell you that sometimes it's easier to have those conversations with another grown-up in the room. I have a ton of resources that I can offer you to help you have the conversation. So that's for you children of aging parents. Now, if you're an aging parent, I want to talk to you for a second. It's really hard to have these conversations, and you may be at a point where you realize that you have to have the conversation and don't know how, and that's okay. But you too might want to get a hold of the ebook, take a look at the topics, and see if you're ready to have a conversation with your adult children. It's extremely important to have these conversations sooner than later. Why? Because anyone can get sick at any time. I have lost a number of people in my life in their 40s and 50s. It happens. And you don't want to be in that situation where you haven't had the conversation, because and then it turns out that it's too late. All right? Because once it's too late, then you're talking about a real world of pain. You're talking about expense, frustration, anguish. There's all kinds of negative stuff that comes with waiting too long. So the most loving thing that you can do for your family and your children is to suck it up and have that difficult conversation, because I promise you, once you have the conversation and you answer those questions and you've you've had the tough talk, you'll feel so much better. And you'll be able to take it to the next step and start taking action on making sure that all of the topics that are covered have actions attached to them, and you get all those questions answered. It's extremely important. But once you do, you will experience greater peace of mind and serenity in your life, knowing that you have set up a plan that will assist your family in being able to take care of people as they get older without ruining their finances and without ruining their lives, by just stepping up and doing the right thing. So I hope you found this recording helpful. If you have questions, please visit my website. It's grandfamilyplanning.com. And visit our resources tab. There's a lot of really great stuff in the resources. Doesn't cost you a dime. Everything's free. We also offer free courses. And if you need us, we're there. You can get a free consultation. And if Grand Family is a good fit for you, yes, we will charge you, because we're professionals. And what we know and what we're able to do has a great deal of value. But I promise you this, by working with us, we'll save you hundreds of thousands of dollars, we'll save you time, we'll save you energy, and we will help you to leave a wonderful and loving legacy for your family. Thanks so much. Have a great day.